The Woman in the House Across the Street. Chapter 1. About Anna. Her name is Anna, suffering from agoraphobia, so she spends her time in her house at the outskirts of Ohio State, isolated from the world, afraid to face people, enjoy her loneliness, and her only pleasure is watching the world from the window. This is her daily routine, waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning, sitting by the window, contemplating the world, while drinking a morning coffee. She spends half the day working online, writing articles in several areas for a local newspaper, and spends the second half of the day reading books. She believes that the best companions are books alone. And when the night comes, she sits by the window, watching the world dive into the darkness, while sipping warm lemon juice. In the few times she has to get out of her house, she covers her face with her hair, and looks down. She doesn't want to see human beings, or be seen by any curious passerby. Every time she goes out of the house, it's like she's going to a drastic war. She feels like she's going to be dead or deformed. That's why she rarely leaves her house. Anna remembers her complicated childhood. Her father left her at 7 months old, and she stayed alone with her mother, who wasn't the best mother in the world, but she will always remember her, because she died too. After that she lived in an orphanage, until she grew up and decided to find her path in life alone. Unfortunately, the day she left the orphanage, she was hit by a speeding car, caused many wounds to her body, and a concussion in the brain. But after a while, she recovered and discovered her writing talent. She managed to get a job in a local newspaper, and her only condition was that she send articles by email. She never wants to go to any workplace, and the newspaper agreed because her talent was extraordinary and beyond doubt. She is very good at observing tiny detail. She sees things that we don't pay attention to, and feels things that hardly can our hearts conceive. Her house, which she inherited from her deceased mother, was very tidy and clean. The sunlight fills it with warmth in the morning, making her feel like an old friend has just come by, and when the sun goes down, she feels like a wonderful lover has just left her. That evening, she was having her warm lemon juice, looking out the window like ever. But this time the scene was different, weird, and scary. Through a window of the house next door, she saw a man fastening a string around a woman's neck from the back, strangulating her hard, until she ran out of power, and fell down dead. What is she going to do now? Calling 911 to tell them about what she has seen. That's definitely her moral duty. But it also means that the police are going to ask her a lot of questions, and she doesn't like to mingle with anyone or see anybody. She's going to be the focus of the investigation, and her bubble is going to fall apart. Perhaps they will take her to the police station for further investigation, and all those procedures scare her to death. But she did what she had to do after all, and responded to the call of duty. She called the police, hoping they would take her statement inside the house, and then leave her alone. Chapter 2. Investigation. Detective Andrew asks her, "What exactly did you see?" She answers as she steps back. "I saw a man strangling a woman with a string. I saw her fall dead." The detective opened the window to put himself in her shoes, and looked at the crime scene from afar. The house where the murder took place was about 100 meters away, separated by a street sided by tall trees. He came back asking her, "Can you describe the killer and the victim?" She said quickly. "The man looks normal, probably 40 years old, half long, wearing a black suit with a red tie, black hair, and dark glasses. The woman, however, is a blonde, probably in her mid-30s. I couldn't see her face, because her hair was covering it, wearing black striped white pajamas." The detective asks her, "And have you been able to see in such detail from this distance?" "Sounds difficult." She said, "Yes, I have. It is not a big deal. I have a strong sight sense, and I always pay attention to the tiniest detail." He asks again, "When exactly did the crime happen?" She replied, "The moment I called you, around 10 o'clock at night. The window of the house was open, the light was on, the details were clear, and I could see everything." The detective wrote what she said, then thanked her, and told her that there might be further investigation. Then Detective Andrew and his associates headed for the house across the street to analyze the crime scene. The door was locked, they broke it, and then went up to the illuminated room with the open window, where the murder took place. They started checking everything. The bad news is that they didn't find any fingerprints or bloodstains or any indication of a struggle. The good news, however, is that they didn't find any dead body in the place. At the CBI, Detective Andrew asks his assistant, "Did you do what I asked for?" His assistant says, "Yes, sir, here's a file of a woman. Her name is Anna, and her life is a little complicated." Andrew opens the file and reads, "Anna works in a local newspaper, intelligent and ambitious person, writing articles and stories, and has her own column called Crime Stories, where she composes fictional stories. The best-known story she wrote for the newspaper goes by the name, The Man with the Red Tie." Anna's medical profile reveals that she has a concussion, which affects her perception of the world, and therefore she is often visited by hallucinations. She also suffers from the agoraphobia, a term indicating the fear of open spaces. She is alone, isolated from the world, without friends. Andrew closed the file and started thinking. He shared that with his assistant. Could Anna have made up the crime story in the house across the street? And it is nothing but fantasies in her subconscious because of her previous injury. Her profile confirms that she frequently sees visual hallucinations. Besides, she's alone. You have no idea how loneliness strikes one's imagination and helps create stories. His assistant said, "This might be possible, especially that when we searched the crime scene, we didn't find the body or any clue to the crime." Andrew seemed occupied with his thoughts. He quietly says, "We will assume that what Anna saw is absolutely true, and that there is indeed a crime, and the perpetrator cleaned up the place and left no trace connecting him to the crime. We will assume all this and act upon it." Andrew had a moment of silence, then says, "The first thing we are going to do now is to find out if there's a woman in the other house. I need her name, a picture of hers, and all what you can find about her. As you know, dear friend, if there's no body, there's no case. Gather all the information as soon as possible." Chapter 3. Interrogation. In the next morning, Andrew's assistant rushed in and told him, "I have prepared all the information you requested, sir, in this file." Andrew opened the file, and his eyes stopped at the picture of the woman, which was exactly what Anna described. Her name is Mary, a blonde, in her mid-30s. She lived in the house just about a month ago. She is a professor at the University of Akron in Ohio. There's nothing suspicious about her, except that she has a boyfriend named Kevin, and he's not a stranger, he's her college fellow. Andrew closed the file, and then turned to his assistant and asked, "Fantastic job, but where is she now?" His assistant said enthusiastically, "That's the weird thing, sir. Mary disappeared exactly 2 days ago. An eyewitness said that the last time he saw her was when she entered her house around 9 p.m. the night of the murder, after which she disappeared completely, with no trace." Detective Andrew lifted his eyebrow and started thinking out loud and said, "That means it's very likely that what Anna says is absolutely true, that there's a killer on the loose. We have to find him, my dear friend. We have to question Anna back here in the office, and bring me that boyfriend, Kevin, too. If he's the killer, Anna will be able to identify him." After 2 hours, Anna and Kevin were sitting in the interrogation room. Anna was shaking. She would rather be on the moon alone without food or oxygen than in this situation. But Detective Andrew reassured her and told her it would be quick. He told Anna, "Look at this guy, his name's Kevin, have you seen him before?" Anna looked at Kevin. He was a handsome man, about 40 years old, dressed in black suit, grey tie, blonde hair. Anna replied as she turned her sight to the detective, "No, sir, I've never seen this man in my life." Andrew told her that she can walk away. After she left, he turned to Kevin and asked him, "Now, Mr. Kevin, you're a professor at the University of Akron. What can you tell me about your relationship with Mary? She's your girlfriend, isn't she?" Kevin seemed horrified while saying, "Right, sir, we've been dating for a month, since she was assigned to teach at the university. There's been chemistry between us, and then we got into a strong relationship. We love each other, and we keep our relationship secret. I'm a man of high standing, and dating one of my colleagues is against the laws of the university. You understand the sensitivity of it, but let me assure you that we're a great couple." Andrew asked him, "That's all fine, and it means nothing to me. The question is, When was the last time you saw Mary? Kevin replied, 2 days ago. I drove her to the nearest place to her house. I saw her get in the street, approach her house, and then she walked away and left. But hey, did anything bad happen to her, and you think I have something to do with that? What a shame. Andrew asked him again, are there any witnesses who can back up your story? Kevin said, I don't think so. It was late at night. Andrew told him that he could leave, but must not leave town before the investigation is over. Chapter 4. New developments. The sound of knocks on Anna's door. She approaches the door and asks, who's there? A man's voice says, it's me. She opens the door eagerly, hugs the man and says, I miss you so much, Kevin. She asked him, has anyone seen you? He said, don't worry. No one's going to know me in this homeless clothes. They sat on the couch, and their hands got tangled. He told her, I still don't know how the police found out about Mary's disappearance so quickly, but I'm glad you denied knowing me, and controlled your nerves, when they were questioning us. Anna said, a neighbor must have seen you kill Mary. Didn't I tell you to be careful? He said, it was urgent, and I wanted to get rid of her and help you. I think we're fine. There's no evidence against us, is there? She said, everything is just fine. Then she asked him to leave, so he didn't open more eyes. She saw him off, then closed the door behind him, and then went to read one of the books, while having a warm lemon juice, in front of the window, and a weird look in her eyes. At the police office, Andrew's assistant was very excited, while telling Detective Andrew the great new developments. Sir, the man I assigned to keep an eye on Anna's house saw something suspicious today. Andrew thrillingly asked, great job, did you recognize the man? His assistant replied, no, sir, he looked like a homeless man, but something about him seemed suspicious, and I thought this information would be very important to you. And you might like this, our guy photographed him, and here's his picture. Andrew looked thoroughly at the picture, and was overwhelmed by the thought in his head. His eyes flashed, and a big smile was drawn on his face. He told his assistant to get prepared, as they will pay a visit to Anna's house tomorrow. Chapter 5. Murder mystery revealed. In Anna's house, Andrew says, let's refresh all little grey cells. He looks at Anna and his assistants, and then he walks back and forth in the room recounting the facts. The story starts with Anna, who called the police to report a crime she saw through a window over 100 meters away in the night. She seemed quite honest. She had little interest in covering up this crime. She knew we were going to dig into her history, and we'd know her problems seeing hallucinations and the concussion that had happened to her since she was young. And with the body not showing up, we'd only have sympathy for her, and we will eventually let her walk away. We were about to do that if one of our guys didn't see a homeless man in her house yesterday. Under any pretext, Anna can deny her relationship with the homeless man. She will say he came to her house asking for food, or he's a maintenance worker, or he simply misdirected the address, and we'll have to believe her. But this homeless man made a big mistake. Andrew took his breath and then continued. That night, when he arrived at Anna's house dressed in homeless clothes, he forgot to change his shoes, and when my assistant showed me the picture, I saw his shoes, and knew right away that this guy was Kevin. Kevin is a cocky, lazy man who didn't think to change the shoes. He was wearing the same shoes when he was at the police office during the investigation. And such tiny detail can't be missed by a detective as good as Andrew. So there's a connection between Anna and Kevin, even though they denied knowing each other in the time of interrogation. This led me to do more research to prove my theory according to this new development. I had to look for trivial things that a regular detective wouldn't consider, but the devil always lies in the details. I started connecting the dots, and the first thing I looked for was Mr. Kevin. Mr. Kevin is a high-profile university professor, always dressed up, always sprays Hero 260 pheromone, an aphrodisiac perfume to attract women. Of course it can only be a perfume he just likes, but I doubt that. Which indicates that Mr. Kevin wouldn't get involved in just one relationship, so I went to his workplace and met one of his colleagues. He was really a chatty man, and told me that Kevin had an affair with a black-haired woman who had some sort of inner problems, and her name is Anna. This new information was enough to imagine the whole thing. The second thing I did was to look for Kevin's girlfriend, Mary. Kevin has always expressed how much he loved and fond of her. Mary came from the farthest suburb in Ohio. I reached out to one of my fellow detectives there. I asked him for details about Mary. And when I got the details, one thing caught my eye, which is that, more than 10 years ago, Mary caused a car accident that hit a young girl who was just leaving an orphanage. The girl had serious injuries, but survived with a concussion in the brain. Unfortunately, after the crash, Mary escaped the scene, but the surveillance camera identified her. The biggest problem is that her father was one of the emperors of politics, so she didn't stay a day in prison, and she didn't even regret what she did. Mary was really heartless. Now Anna grows up and lives a miserable life, trapped between her sick mind and her visual hallucinations that she sees every day. One thing that has driven her to embrace life even more: avenging the girl who caused the accident. Eventually, after a major search, Anna must have known that Mary was the girl who almost killed her, so she started gathering all the information about her and thought about a plan to get back at her. Here, destiny plays its game. Mary comes to the University of Akron to teach, because her father is a friend of the rector in that particular university. Mary got excited about the job and paid the university a visit. The rector nominates one of his best professors and know the city by heart, Mr. Kevin, to receive a new visitor, Mary. At the time, Kevin was in a relationship with Anna. He must have talked to her about the new visitor and asked her to help him find her a comfortable residence. Here Anna knows that fate has brought Mary to her lap, and fortunately the house across the street is empty and looking for a tenant. Anna suggests that Kevin convince Mary to rent it. Anna must have thought a lot before she told Kevin about Mary and what she did with her when she was young, and Kevin must have really loved Anna, so together they thought about a clean revenge. The first step was for Kevin to get close to Mary. She's a blonde, lonely, grown-up woman, and Kevin is attractive and stylish, and it's hard for a woman to turn him down, so it wasn't hard for him to make Mary fall in love with him. After Mary trusted Kevin, especially since he found her a great place to live in, he started to implement the second step of the plan, a simple, quick step, which is to kill Mary. Anna must have promised him a new woman, giving him everything he wished for and more. Kevin wasn't very moral. His file is full of petty crimes and corruption. It wasn't hard for him to add murder to the rest, for the sake of his love to Anna. Anna offers Kevin a hellish, flawless plan, and there will be no evidence against him. She tells him to come to Mary's house at night around 10 o'clock, where the place is quiet and Mary is home alone. His job is to strangulate her in silence. She tells him to wear a black suit and a red tie, because that is the uniform of her father's guards. It is going to appear like a political crime, a conflict of interests, or dissenters. And after he kills her, he carries her to Anna's house. The darkness will help not to be seen by anyone. In Anna's house he is going to bury the dead Mary in the backyard. No one will ever know that. And that is exactly what happened. The plan was carried out very carefully, with no mistakes. I mean, there were two very simple mistakes. When I first visited Anna's house, I noticed red mud spots on the outside mop of the house. They were weird, because the other spots were of a different color. Which means that either a strange visitor from a strange place came to visit her, or Anna was in a place with red mud. And the red mud is in the backyard of the house. I saw it myself. Of course that doesn't confirm that there's a corpse buried there, but here comes another mistake, or let's say, the mistake of a child looking to realize the dreams he saw in sleep. Remember, my dear assistant, the famous story Anna wrote in that local newspaper. What was its name? Yes. The Man with the Red Tie. Doesn't that remind you of anything? Exactly. Anna planned the crime to look exactly like her famous story, so I rushed out looking for that story, and when I found it and started reading it, I got surprised and stunned. It is a really engaging, interesting story, and more importantly, it contains the details of the whole crime. Anna imitated her fairy tale and applied it in reality, which is why I bet you all that Mary is buried in the backyard. For some time, it was clear that Detective Andrew had hit the nail on the head, because Anna's eyes were filled with tears, and her face was topped with a lightning bolt, but she gathered her courage and asked the detective. It's all beautiful speculations. But didn't you ask yourself a very simple question? Why did I report the crime? Didn't I call you to tell you there was a crime in the other house? Why would I do that? Andrew looked at her face for a moment, smiled a faint smile, and continued, "A really nice question, and tired me so much to find out its answer. But it is simple indeed. Anna never loved Kevin. He's a guy putting a strange perfume. He reminds you of your father, who you deeply hate. You love no one but yourself. Look at your pictures everywhere. There's not a single picture of any man, and even your bed is only for one person, and most importantly, your last article in that newspaper. Why do I hate men? The fact is that you tell so much about yourself in those articles. But when Kevin came in, you manipulated his mind. He really loved you, and you hated his love, but he was the only person who endured all your fears and psychological problems, so you kept him, just like we kept the snake in the house to catch the mouse. And when he got involved in the crime, you had in mind two important reasons for that. The first, you were betting that he would be arrested. But he's not going to rat you out because he loves you, and he's going to take it all alone. The second, he is the person who makes your fantasies and your hallucinations come true, which you try hard to prove are true and real. And let me ask you a final question. Where the hell is Kevin? She smiled a big one and said, "It seems you haven't finished reading my famous story. After the man with red tie carries out his murder, his girlfriend kills him because an inner demon orders her to. That's why she put thallium poison in his drink," she horrendously continued. "And if you were a really good detective, you would know that I put that poison on his drink yesterday when he came to visit me wearing homeless clothes." The end.